Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Wow, that lady was definitely a Karen. I'm glad her husband was nice about it, though. Dealing with entitled customers can be frustrating, especially when they attempt to guilt trip or manipulate staff members. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. My husband is keeping you safe. I want a discount. I'm a checkout supervisor for a supermarket here in the UK. Our store isn't the biggest in the region, Southwest, but we have one of the highest weekly income rates. For us, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are our busiest times. And like all retailers at the moment, we're thin on the ground in the staffing department. This isn't an issue for the checkouts themselves, but as a supervisor, it makes my job very difficult when we're understaffed as supervisors typically run the entire front end, excluding the cafe, by themselves. Last Saturday afternoon was one of those days where pretty much everything goes wrong, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. I was on my own and running the checkouts when one of the staff members called me over to ask a question about our discounts. We offer a 10% discount on shopping, excluding spirits, baby formula, tobacco, and a few other things, to NHS staff, teachers, holders of a blue light card, and a few others. The blue light card discount is the newest for us. All of the emergency services are entitled to one, along with several other essential services such as the Coast Guard and immigration officers. We've been told that when someone hands us a blue light card, we need to see an official photo ID, driving license, passport, etc. as well, as the blue light card doesn't have a personal picture on it. Also, we're not supposed to let someone other than the cardholder use it. The checkout operator was new, so they asked me if the customer was allowed to use someone else's card. I said she wasn't, and asked the customer, an older lady, who the card belonged to. She responded, "It's not my card, it's my husband's, but I'm using it as I have done here before." The old "they did it for me last time" argument. Heard it at least 1,000 times, and it never works. I said I'm sorry, but I'll need the person whose name is on the card to come in with some ID so I can give you the discount. She then said he's not here as he's at home, so I'll need to call him and he'll have to drive in. I said that was fine and that we could wait. She then looked at me as if I just dribbled all over myself and said, "You're gonna make me wait? My husband's fighting to keep you safe, and you're going to make him come in here? I hope you never need to go to the hospital." As a supervisor, I thought I'd heard it all at work, but the part about her husband fighting to keep me safe, I've never been admitted to the hospital, made me want to laugh out loud. I apologized to her and said I'll need to see his ID as the blue light card is his. She huffed and called him while I suspended the transaction so the checkout operator could continue working. She stood opposite the desk where I keep our documents and gave me the stink eye until her husband arrived. I was a little worried that her husband would be nasty like she was. It was busy and I was very stressed and didn't want to end up saying the wrong thing. When he came in, I took them over to a spare till and recalled the transaction. The husband said hello and asked me how my day was going. I replied honestly, and he chuckled and said, "Yeah, I'll bet. It's mental in here. I know I wouldn't want your job." He was the friendliest customer I had all day, and we chatted while I set the till up. As the rude lady was typing in her PIN, she asked me if there was any way of getting around the issue in the future. Her husband, the nice man, said there was no need for that, and I told her that not getting around things was the whole point of a restriction. I handed them their receipt and sent them on their way. It's not the worst thing to ever happen to me at work, but it really annoyed me. Supermarket staff have been working all through the pandemic too, and we still greet staff with a smile. Luckily, this lady's husband was great. Have a great week, everyone. Kudos to you for handling this situation with professionalism and for acknowledging the efforts of the supermarket staff, who indeed have been working tirelessly through challenging times. And our second story. I see your malicious compliance on me, so I will do one of my own on you. A while ago, I was in charge of training for a large organization. I mostly did the organizing. For a fictitious example, I might coordinate the dean of medicine at Yale to come in and give a speech to 200 employees. Our usual location was a large auditorium/classroom complete with podium and computer. The aforementioned dean might show up with the PowerPoint that he needed to run, etc., so I had my 2 admin assistants show up at 7:45 a.m. each morning to make sure whatever the room was running for whatever speaker lecturer was there, as the usual start time was 8 o'clock. Sometimes, as was bound to happen, computer issues arose. Not too often, maybe once or twice a month tops. Maybe the dean couldn't pull up his PowerPoint, so we'd call our IT guy, Gary, who was 2 offices away, and he'd come fix the problem. Everyone was happy. Until Gary retired. His new replacement, Todd, didn't like the arrangement. Though his start time was 8 o'clock, he'd often drift in at 8:10 or 8:15. This is not good when we're having a computer crisis at 8:02. Further, he hated walking into the office and immediately having a call waiting for him. He wanted to have his coffee, read his email, and ease his way into the workday. Can't blame him there. So Todd decided that he would no longer attend our computer calls. He told me to have my admin assistants troubleshoot the problem since they were there anyways. He was pretty hardcore about this until I pulled out the job description of my assistants, and nowhere did it say that computer repair fell under their workload. I then showed him his job description where it said that computer repair was. Enter malicious compliance on Todd's part. You want me to attend? Okay, then we'll do it by the books. No more calling me directly. You need to call the central helpline and have them open a user ticket, then I'll attend. I pointed out the foolishness of this. It's 7:54, I have the Yale Dean of Medicine, and he can't work his PowerPoint. I need it fixed now. I can't spend 15 minutes waiting on hold for the next available help desk agent, then 15 minutes explaining the problem to them, then have them open a ticket and send it to Todd, then another 20 minutes before Todd opens/responds to the ticket. We can't have 200 people sitting for 45 minutes waiting on Todd. Too bad, he said with a smirk. Those are the rules. Or you could just have your admin ladies fix the problem. I tried one last-ditch effort to reason. When the CEO is going to give a speech and the computer shorts out, he doesn't have to wait 45 minutes, so obviously you can make exceptions. Common sense says this should be one too. Nope, Todd said. The CEO staff do what's called a preemptive ticket. They submit it ahead of time and have me there on standby in case things do go wrong. So yes, even he has to do the ticket process. Okay, Todd, I see your malicious compliance, and raise you one of my own. The next morning, I sat with coffee in hand and waited, smiling in anticipation. Sure enough, my door burst open with a furious Todd. "What the F is this?" he snarled, waving a printout. I had submitted preemptive tickets for every day for the next 3 months, requiring Todd to be at my training room at 7:45 every day, just in case there was a computer emergency. Even better, I had contacted his boss's boss and received authorization to change Todd's work schedule due to operational requirements, so he would now be required to work 7 to 3 instead of 8 to 4. Or you could just pick up the damn phone when I call and come over. We agreed that the ticket process would not be necessary and he would show up as needed. Good for you, finding a way to make him play nice with others. Something he should have learned in kindergarten. And our last story. HOA nightmare. Bought my first place and a couple weeks in, came to learn our HOA was suspended by the state for failing to file taxes for years. The seller had knowledge of this and never said a word. Right before the sale, the HOA switched management companies, which caused their existing bank account to be closed so funds could be transferred to a new account with the new management. However, given the lack of state recognition, the new management couldn't open the new account. It was like trying to open a personal bank account without any form of ID. All of our funds were stuck in the form of a check with nowhere to deposit. This meant there was no place for HOA members to send their monthly dues. It also meant there was no account to pay bills from. The board spent months flailing around and holding meetings with no actionable outcomes. The old management company, whose negligence got us here in the first place, refused to respond to any form of contact with us. The new management company agreed to do all the paperwork to resolve the problem, but after I investigated, I found they hadn't lifted a finger. And the late notices for bills started to roll in, accumulating in a notice posted on our building, giving us a matter of days before the water would be shut off and the building condemned. I'd had enough of this crap, so I did a ton of research and came up with a plan. This occupied nearly all of my free time at home and on lunch breaks at work. I hired a lawyer to create a trust for us and to accept dues checks and pay bills with the trust. With cash flowing again, we were able to pay off the utility bills and late fees. I convinced the board to fire the new management. They weren't doing a damn thing for us while still sending a monthly bill they knew we had no way to pay. After an antagonistic call from the CEO of the management company, I drafted the termination letter and the board sent it. I then dug into the state corporate and tax law. I learned how to do a corporate revival. HOAs are technically corporations here. I needed the missing tax records for the state tax board and then to file for reinstatement with the state. The tax board process by the policy takes 3 months to send a response with their decision, and the state can take up to 3 months after that. We had our lawyer send a legal letter to our unresponsive old management requesting all financial documents. They promptly responded with some of the worst-kept records I could have imagined, in which they looked like they originated from a Word document. But it had just enough information for me to complete the missing years of tax documents. So we sent off the tax documents and began the long wait for the tax board decision to put us in good standing again. In the meantime, I rounded up recommendations for new management companies. The board narrowed it down to 3, and we interviewed them at our annual meeting. After the 3 months and no word from the tax board, I began calling them on a daily basis. Most times, nobody had an answer for us as to the status of our request. Eventually, I got enough info to determine that no one there had even looked at our paperwork yet. Luckily, my last call was to the one and only sympathetic soul there who listened to my story and promised to expedite our paperwork. A week later, we were back in good standing with the tax board. Then I filed the paperwork for the corporate revival. After about a month and a couple phone calls, our HOA was officially recognized by the state again. We hired our new management. They promptly opened an account and transferred the funds from the trust, and things have finally been getting back to some semblance of normalcy. And I was immediately elected HOA treasurer. The fact that you were elected as the HOA treasurer speaks to the trust and confidence the community has in your ability to handle financial matters. Hopefully, with the new management and your oversight, the HOA can move forward smoothly and avoid similar challenges in the future. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.